Wisconsin Eye's 2014 election coverage is brought to you by the Wisconsin Hospital Association. For over 90 years, a valued voice for Wisconsin hospitals, supporting high-quality, high-value care in communities like yours.
Wisconsin Eye is in Eau Claire on the Chippewa Valley Tech College campus. We're talking to Mr. Darrel Laumann of New Richmond. He's a Democrat running in Assembly District 30. Darrel, welcome to Wisconsin Eye.
Thank you for having me.
Wisconsin Eye appreciates the support of the Wisconsin Hospital Association, which represents more than 139 hospitals and health systems, for making these candidate interviews possible. Darrel, I want to ask first, open the discussion this way. Your campaign website says choices were made that hurt our families and careers. Can you explain?
Yes, there's a lot of legislation that went through recently is really negative affecting our families. My campaign is very focused on a family-first kind of mentality with everything we do. Everything that affects us locally comes from the state, and that's one thing that I'm hoping to change.
Specific examples that policy decisions made over the last 4 years that have hurt families?
Well, one of the big one is the Medicare. That's something that you hear a lot about, especially when I'm outdoor knocking and talking to people. I hear a lot of the, why did we not take that federal money? Why is the choices for Medicare and insurance, especially, so much better just across the border from where our district is?
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, when we talk about Medicaid, 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents are on Medicaid, and the American Hospital Association says our reimbursement rates are the second lowest in the nation. Do you think those rates should be increased?
I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done with Medicaid. It's, like I said, for starters, the not accepting the federal funds really hurt the expansion of the program. Again, the choices that we have are so much better if you could just go across the states to the states that actually have accepted that money. And it's actually costing us money by not accepting it. So, yeah, there's a lot of changes that need to be made.
Okay. A big issue in the next state budget, which you would be voting on, is how much money should go to public schools. If you're in the Assembly, what will be your priorities when school funding is talked about?
Well, one of the things that with the school funding that happens a lot is the talk of the voucher program gets brought up. Mm-hmm. The voucher program is, a lot of people like a lot of parents, especially myself as an up-and-coming expecting parent, we like the idea of choices for our children. We like the idea of being able to choose where we send our kids to school. That's great. That being said, when you start reducing the funding to your public school to choose where you want to send your children to school, you're actually taking a lot of the controls away and the accountability. As taxpayers, we need to be aware of someone has to be accountable for our money. We can't just spend it out with no accountability.
Okay. Related to that, Governor Walker called for Wisconsin to withdraw from the Common Core standards. Your position on that?
Well, my position on Common Core is a baseline. It's a baseline that schools have to meet. It's a baseline expectation that schools have to meet. It doesn't mean we have to stop there. We're not saying you can't go farther, you can't succeed. That would be ridiculous. So for schools to say that, well, we can't take Common Core because, that's it. We want to do better. I say that's wrong. We should always strive for perfection.
Okay. Congratulations on your future child, but give us a short version of your bio.
Short version of my bio. I was born and raised in Minnesota. I moved to St. Croix County 20 years ago. I actually met my wife there. We both attended University of Wisconsin, River Falls. And we met, we fell in love, we got married, and we've stayed in that area ever since. Okay. The St. Croix River Valley has been beautiful. It's just, it was basically a location that we both looked at and said, this is where we want to stay. And we did.
What do you do for a career?
And after school, I went and got a job at the state of Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
And I've been moving. I've moved around a bit, and eventually became the team lead for the service desk for the Department of Health.
Okay. The issue of health care in Wisconsin. 1 in 5 Wisconsin residents get their health care from Medicaid. The American Hospital Association says our Medicaid reimbursement rates are second lowest in the nation. If you studied the issue, do you think those rates should be increased, sir?
Well, it's something that I'm not completely up on the reimbursements, but it seems like if you've got a group of experts who say this is what needs to happen, to not listen to them and at least look at that is really doing a disservice.
Okay. Let's talk about transportation funding. The transportation fund may face a deficit in the next 2-year spending cycle of $600 to $700 million. How should it be fixed, Darrel?
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do to, fix the transportation funding issue. A lot of things, like for example, in St. Croix County, we have something called a wheel tax that helps augment the lack of funding that St. Croix County is getting. And that's a local initiative that starts locally, and I think it should be kept local. If you've got local roads, they should be managed locally. That wheel tax actually is I think is an excellent way that it starts that how do you fix the transportation deficit. Because it's based on, if you've got 12 cars, you're going to pay more than the family that has just one vehicle.
Would you consider, in terms of paying for state highways, raising either our gas tax or the $75 to register a vehicle?
Well, raising the taxes doesn't, everyone looks at, okay, let's raise the taxes. That seems to be the easy answer. Without the accountability of where's that money actually going to go, it's hard to say that raising the taxes is the best bet. Registration is another way that may be a good solution, but it needs to be looked into. I've heard all sorts of proposals to how do you solve this. Everything from toll roads to increasing taxes again. But I think you need to look at it and see what makes sense and what specifically makes sense for the area of impact.
Frac sand mines have absolutely exploded in western Wisconsin. There's a debate in the Capitol that state government should enact some basic standards and no local government could go beyond those, or is this a total local government issue, sir?
This should be a local government issue. To kind of go back to your previous question with transportation, if you were to, for example, say local government say per ton, you have to pay per ton of sand removed, that goes directly to the road maintenance that the wear and tear that the commercial vehicles, dump trucks, that would do. That's one way that will solve your transportation and your infrastructure budget right away. That's just one idea, but with the frac sand, that is totally a local control issue. If the local community does not want a frac sand mine right next to their school, there shouldn't be one.
As you meet with residents of the 30th Assembly District, what do they tell you are their biggest issues, Darrel?
A lot of what I hear is a biggest issue is frac sand, even though that is not directly affected in District 30, it's like all around District 30. But one of the big things I hear a lot is the heroin issue, more specifically the narcotic opiates.
Yes, St. Croix, the Hudson has had a major problem. Have you thought about how to fight that scourge?
Hudson specifically has been hit really hard in the last few years, and it's even made some national news. One thing that St. Croix County has done, the Board of Supervisors has really taken this issue seriously and tried to come up with ways to help combat that issue of heroin coming in. They've hired another drug prosecutor. That drug prosecutor, she's focusing on, not just prosecuting the people who bring the drugs into our area, but finding help for the people who are addicted.
Part of this debate is, let me phrase it this way. The bill to legalize medical marijuana will be reintroduced next session. States of Colorado and Washington now have legalized recreational marijuana. Your position?
Well, Minnesota actually has just formed the Department of Medical Cannabis, and that's a state that's right next door to our area, and that's for medical marijuana. Medical marijuana is, if you look at the studies that have come out, it's a great non-addictive painkiller for certain cases. And if that's the case, we should look into that and allow it.
Okay. What about the recreational?
Now, the recreational use, you hear arguments for and against on both sides. I'm kind of undecided as to how the recreational marijuana will be, how it'll be impacted in our state. I can see benefits for legalizing it, and I can see some risks for legalizing it as well.
Okay. Tax reciprocity between Minnesota and Wisconsin has been a huge issue. Where does that stand? Has that been resolved? I think Wisconsin has made an offer to Minnesota,
Yep.
but could you give us a...
That's an issue that actually hits me personally, and especially a lot of the constituents in my area as well.
Yes.
Most of the people in my area, we work out of the Twin Cities.
Right.
That's where the opportunity is for careers, which is a shame, but it's reality. And because of that reciprocity not being established, we, in essence, are, you hear the employee saying, we're paying taxes twice.
Yes.
That's not the reality, but it sure feels like it when you're getting your taxes taken out of your paycheck. And it's really a shame that it's not back in play. You've mentioned that there was an offer. I believe that offer was rejected.
Was rejected.
I believe it was. I'll have to look into that again, but it's been a tough negotiation with the state of Minnesota to get that reciprocity put back in play.
Since it's a big issue for you and some of your neighbors, what should be the next step to try to resolve this? That issue?
I think a little bit more aggressive negotiation with the state of Minnesota, specifically the Revenue Department, and get that established. It's something that, with other states, we have the agreements in place. They've been in place. Minnesota has agreements with other states. They've been in place for years. The breakdown of communication between Minnesota and Wisconsin on this issue needs to be brought to the light, and that negotiation needs to be reestablished.
Okay. That might involve a one-time payment by the state of Wisconsin to Minnesota to settle this, correct?
That was the
That's
latest.
one of the options?
That was one of the latest options, yes.
Okay, and Minnesota said thanks but no thank you?
I'm not sure what Minnesota said to that. I do know that there's been a lot of negotiation, but at this point, there is no dice.
Okay. First offense drunken driving in Wisconsin, should it be a crime?
First offense drunken driving actually already is a crime. I mean, if you're arrested, you have been arrested for drunken driving. That being said, I think it's a way to track habitual people who are addicted to alcohol. And once you can track that, you can actually see that, okay, this is an individual that needs assistance. They need assistance breaking that addiction. It falls along the same lines as heroin. It's an addiction. You need to get help to the people who are addicted.
Okay. I've asked you about a bunch of issues. Are there any that are important to your campaign that you want to add, sir?
There's a lot of things that affect the District 30, but we've covered most of the major issues.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to representing my area come
Then,
this fall.
Finally, do you want to highlight differences between you and your opponent on November 4?
Well, I think the record's pretty clear. If you look up what my opponent has done, because he is the incumbent, you can see what he's done in office. There's a clear distinction between what I've said and what he's done.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Darrel Laumann of New Richmond is a Democrat running in Assembly District 30. The election is November 4. Darrel, thanks for talking to Wisconsin Eye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.